Tonight, the deep freeze turns deadly. Wind chills in some places 65 below zero. More than 50 below in Chicago and Minneapolis. Schools closed. Firefighters battling flames and ice. Hundreds of flights canceled tonight. De-icing equipment overwhelmed. Amtrak setting tracks on fire to keep trains moving. From Chicago down to Atlanta. From New York City up to Boston. Frostbite in some places setting in just 5 minutes. We do have breaking news as we come on tonight in the case of the well-known TV actor who told police he was brutally attacked. The Empire actor telling police the suspects, their faces covered, put a rope around his neck, shouting racial and homophobic slurs. Tonight, what Chicago police have just revealed about possible surveillance in the case. President Trump tonight slamming his own intelligence chiefs, telling them to go back to school, calling them naive after what they said about Iran, North Korea, Russia, and ISIS. The woman officer shot in the chest and killed. The officer charged. Police say it happened during a game of Russian roulette, but tonight, new questions. Prosecutors asking, was there a rush to call this an accident? The sinkhole in an American neighborhood revealing a secret tunnel underneath. Authorities say someone was digging that tunnel to break into a bank. And the stunning and heartbreaking images tonight, the senior citizen, a patient with dementia, left to wander the streets. Her family says she was discharged from the hospital in the middle of the night.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a very busy Wednesday night. We have several developing stories as we come on, and we're going to begin tonight with this dangerous cold now turning deadly. Those wind chills as low as 65 degrees below zero. At least 8 people are dead tonight. Look at the steam rising off the water of Lake Michigan in Chicago. Amtrak setting fire along the train tracks just to keep the trains moving. Whiteout conditions from lake effect snow near Buffalo. Several major pileups being reported tonight. Thousands of flights canceled nationwide. They can't keep up with the de-icing equipment. Tomorrow morning, wind chills 44 below in Minneapolis, 43 below in Chicago, and look all the way east there. It'll feel like 16 below here in New York City, 18 below in Boston. Tonight, right here, you'll see the rescues and the firefighters forced to battle the flames in this very dangerous cold. ABC's Alex Perez leading us off from Chicago.
Tonight, that Arctic air firing up the lake effect snow machine, bringing several feet of snow to western New York. Vehicles crashing in whiteout conditions in the Buffalo area. Snow squalls in Pennsylvania causing multiple pileups on highways, including this one outside Reading.
Motor vehicle accident injuries reported anywhere between 20 and 40 vehicles involved.
This as the Midwest is gripped by record-breaking cold.
Chicago is like a ghost town right now. The city is marking one of its coldest days many of us have ever seen.
In Chicago, warm city buses to help get people out of the cold.
Is anybody here?
Teams of social workers handing out blankets, gloves, and socks.
I think regardless of all our efforts, we're still going to see a lot of people that are not going to make it.
The 50 below wind chill means frostbite can take hold in just 5 minutes. For severe cases, Northwestern Memorial Hospital using this device called a bear hugger.
So what's happening now?
So what you're seeing here is warm air is basically circulating over the patient. And that way maintaining this warmth, getting their core body temperature back up to physiologic parameters.
It's so cold that the Postal Service stopped mail delivery in parts of 10 states. But some workers have no choice but to be outside, like these firefighters in Hammond, Indiana. Thousands of flights canceled. Our David Curley on the tarmac at Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport this morning.
The real enemy here is not the cold as far as flying, it's the cold as far as ice. If it gets onto the wings, it can ruin the aerodynamics of an aircraft.
Back in Chicago, they're using fire to keep the trains running. Amtrak canceling all service in and out of the city today and tomorrow. Even shipping lanes are frozen. Our Tom Yamas is on U.S. Coast Guard cutter Morro Bay on Lake St. Clair in Michigan.
The ice is about 6 to 10 inches thick in some parts, and the Coast Guard tells us it is so cold that when they actually cut ice in these conditions, they make more ice. You can see some of that right there. The deep V line it's cutting, the ice just reconnects. They're telling us this is too dangerous for any ship besides this one.
In Wisconsin, the Coast Guard helping rescue 7 people stuck on the ice. And now that bone-chilling cold is moving east.
Just incredible pictures from you, Alex, and our entire team fan out across the storm zone. And I know you're live right there in the Chicago River tonight, completely frozen over. And you were telling us it's going to be even colder there tomorrow.
David, that's right. It was 23 below zero here today. It felt like 52 below zero. That's the coldest it's felt here in a quarter century. And tomorrow, possibly more record-breaking, bitter sub-zero cold. David?
All right, you've been a good sport for us, Alex. Thank you. You know, those intense snow squalls you just saw in Alex's piece in Pennsylvania, they blew right through New York City this afternoon. Look at this time lapse showing the quick hit of snow blinding drivers and hiding cars. That's New York City's West Side Highway. And that's exactly where we find Sam Champion tonight, live right along the highway. Sam, I know it moved through quickly. It was blinding, but tonight the wind is howling behind it.
Oh, David, it is screaming. It has been screaming since that front moved through. We've dropped to 16 degrees right now. We've got a 38-mile-per-hour wind right here on the West Side Highway. That puts our wind chill at right around zero. Let's get to the maps. We'll show you what's going on right now and what we've got ahead of us for the next 24 hours. So blizzard warnings for the lake effect snow and all of this wind. Wind chill alerts are there. There's that 16-degree temperature in New York with a 0 wind chill. Detroit's at -9 right now, actual temperature. Here's what's waiting for you Thursday morning. Look at that, -16 in New York, Pittsburgh at 19 below. Let me give you the good news, David, and that is by the weekend we're on a warm-up. I can't say we won't remember this because I think I always will, but it'll be certainly above normal by the time we get to Saturday and Sunday, David.
All right, Sam Champion, always good to have you back, and not a moment too soon tonight. Thank you. In the meantime, we turn to other news and a developing story as we're on the air tonight. Breaking news in the case in what police are calling a possible hate crime. The actor Empire star Jussie Smollett telling police that two men with covered faces attacked him, put a rope around his neck, poured a chemical on him, and shouted racial and homophobic slurs. Well, just a short time ago, authorities now revealing they may now have possible persons of interest, pointing to surveillance. Here's ABC's Steve Osunsami.
Chicago police tonight are sharing these pictures from surveillance video that show persons of interest in the alleged attack on actor and singer Jussie Smollett. Police are hoping to talk with these two men, seen here around 1:30 a.m., shortly before the actor says he was beaten up early Tuesday morning.
He's supposed to be well-known, requesting a report, and said the noose was placed over the friend's neck.
The actor was in town shooting scenes for his drama series Empire. Police say he told them he was leaving a Subway sandwich shop and was heading home to his apartment when he was jumped by two masked men yelling out racial and homophobic slurs. Smollett says they poured an unknown chemical substance on him, possibly bleach, and one of them wrapped a rope around his neck. In a second police interview, he said the attackers yelled MAGA country. Smollett's manager tells ABC News he was on the phone with the actor during all of this and overheard the attack. Tonight, his Empire co-stars are offering support. Taraji P. Henson says, "I wish what happened to my baby was just one big bad joke, but it wasn't, and we all feel his pain right now."
He's angry, but I know Jussie. You know, Jussie's anger will dissipate, and he will forgive these people for what they did. But he won't, and we cannot forget their actions.
The FBI is already investigating a letter he received a week ago at his TV studio that was laced with a powdery substance believed to be Tylenol.
So let's bring in Steve Osunsami with us live tonight. I know a lot of people are following this investigation. And Steve, what more do we know about that surveillance video, what it might show or it doesn't show?
Well, police say it doesn't show the incident. It just shows two men walking in the general area. And authorities are asking for help. They're asking the public to take a look, see if they recognize these two people, these persons of interest, even an item of clothing. No detail is too small to recognize. David?
Steve Osunsami with us again tonight. Thank you, Steve. We're going to turn next here to new questions this evening after an officer was charged with killing a fellow officer, shooting her in the chest. Investigators had said they were playing a form of Russian roulette in his home. But tonight, the prosecutor is now accusing the police department of rushing to call it an accident. Here's ABC's Will Carr.
Tonight, hours after Officer Caitlin Alex was laid to rest, the department where she worked is under fire regarding her death. Circuit Attorney Kimberly Gardner sent this blistering letter obtained by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch to the city's police chief, questioning why Alex's death was initially called an accident. According to charging documents, on-duty officer Nathaniel Hendren, seen bruised and battered in his mugshot after allegedly headbutting a car, was playing a game similar to Russian roulette with off-duty officer Caitlin Alex inside Hendren's home. Hendren allegedly shot Alex in the chest, killing her.
As much as it saddens me and my staff to file these charges, Caitlin and her family deserve accountability and justice.
The circuit attorney stating there is a serious problem in objective investigative tactics after an official request to draw blood to test for drugs and alcohol was turned down. Instead, Hendren submitted to breath and urine tests. David, tonight Officer Hendren is charged with involuntary manslaughter. One big question is why he was inside of his house when he was on duty. His attorney says the allegations are rumors and gossip, calling this a tragic accident. David.
All right, Will Carr reporting in tonight. Thank you, Will. Tonight, President Trump is slamming his own intelligence chiefs, telling them to go back to school, calling them naive. After what they said about Iran, North Korea, Russia, and ISIS, they study the intelligence, and they contradicted the president in front of the American people. Here's ABC senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega tonight.
President Trump today launched a blistering attack on his own hand-picked intelligence leaders, tweeting, "Perhaps intelligence should go back to school." It comes one day after they publicly contradicted him again and again on ISIS.
We have won against ISIS.
The director of national intelligence said that is far from the case.
ISIS is intent on resurging and still commands thousands of fighters in Iraq and Syria.
On North Korea, President Trump says Kim Jong-un is willing to denuclearize. CIA Chief Gina Haspel says hardly.
The regime is committed to developing a long-range nuclear armed missile that would pose a direct threat to the United States.
And on the president's repeated claim that Iran is close to acquiring a nuclear weapon,
we do not believe Iran is currently undertaking activities we judge necessary to produce a nuclear device.
Today, the president tweeting, "The intelligence people seem to be extremely passive and naive when it comes to the dangers of Iran. They are wrong." But the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee sounded the alarm, calling the president's words dangerous, adding people risk their lives for the intelligence he just tosses aside.
So let's get right to Cecilia Vega. She's live at the White House tonight. And Cecilia, we know President Trump has also repeatedly questioned the intelligence when it comes to Russian meddling in the election. We know he's kept his own conversations with Vladimir Putin private, at times even from his closest advisors. But tonight you were taking note that the Financial Times is now reporting about another private conversation between the president and Putin. No American translator?
Yeah, David, the paper says that this was a 15-minute meeting back when they were at the G20 summit in November. They say only two other people were present for that meeting, First Lady Melania Trump and Putin's own translator. The White House is calling this an informal meeting. Beyond that, they don't have much more to say. But probably, David, because as you said, the paper, according to the Financial Times, says there were no other White House aides in that room.
But there was a translator for Putin. All right, Cecilia Vega, to a truly disturbing piece of video from Long Beach, California. A family accusing a hospital of discharging their loved one, an 84-year-old patient with dementia, in the middle of the night, eventually left to wander the streets. Here's ABC's Kana Whitworth with the surveillance.
Tonight, the California Department of Health launching an investigation after this shocking video surfaced showing an elderly dementia patient wandering late at night after she was allegedly discharged by a hospital.
Oh, I was enraged.
Her daughter filing a complaint after watching Savina Genoese Zerbe wearing only a robe and sandals, trying for 25 minutes to get back into the treatment facility where she lived. This after she was taken to College Medical Center in Long Beach for an evaluation earlier that night. The 84-year-old's daughter claims an employee from the hospital told her they would make proper arrangements to safely transfer her back.
She was not in a state to be safe without somebody physically watching her.
But her daughter says Zerbe was put in a cab alone.
David, the hospital here behind me that discharged that 84-year-old telling us tonight that the patient denied their transportation, adding they notified the receiving facility and her family, who they plan on meeting with to further discuss this issue. David?
Kana Whitworth. Kana, thank you. From Wisconsin tonight, state officials say they were surprised to learn that after President Trump celebrated Foxconn, bringing many jobs to their state, that Foxconn is now reconsidering plans for a manufacturing facility there. The Chinese electronics giant planned to make LCD panels at a manufacturing facility there. Now they may create a, quote, technology hub instead. Wisconsin was investing up to $10 billion in this. The original hope was that Foxconn would create 13,000 jobs. We'll stay tuned on that. There is still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Wednesday. The police standoff on an American highway. Traffic backed up for miles both ways. The truck driver was armed with a machete. His truck surrounded by police, and the News Tonight coming in on this. Also, the sinkhole in an American neighborhood revealing a secret tunnel underneath. Authorities say they were digging to break into a bank. You have to see this. About the frightening head-on collision between a Jeep and a semi-truck. The driver in the Jeep surviving this. We have news on his condition tonight. A lot more news ahead.
Where others see destruction, we see hope.
Together, we can build beyond disaster. Together, a better world is possible.